The war had ended, but peace was still just a word. Out in deep space, a neutral star station called Vesper Haven floated like a lonely lantern between broken planets. Diplomats, survivors, and traitors gathered here under a tense agreement. No violence, no politics, just healing. Among those who arrived was a strange figure no one expected. A thin, quiet girl with silver blue skin, long dark robes, and glowing eyes. She wore cuffs on her wrists, not jewelry, but restraints. Her name was Zelevra, and she was a Varnathi princess, the last of her kind. The Varnathi were feared across the galaxy. During the war, they used mind control and telepathy to break enemy armies. Whole fleets turned on each other. Billions died. When the Varnathi Hive Empire fell, the galaxy cheered. And now here was one of them, silent, alone, surrounded by guards, but not chained anymore. Her own people had rejected her, calling her a traitor. Other species whispered that she was dangerous. No one wanted her. So they locked her in Medbay Storage 3, an empty room on the lower levels of Vesper Haven. No windows, just a small cot, blinking lights, and a single translator device. She didn't speak. She didn't move much. Some said she was broken. Others said she was pretending, but then Lieutenant Arlen Hayes saw her. Arlen was a human combat medic, about 30 years old, with calloused hands and a quiet voice. He had served in the war, patching up wounded soldiers on dirty ships and field hospitals. After the armistice, he had been transferred to Vesper Haven to help with trauma recovery. He didn't care much for politics. He just wanted to heal. One day, while delivering supplies to the lower medical wing, he passed by Medbay Storage 3. The door was open slightly. Inside, he saw the girl, sitting with her knees pulled to her chest, eyes glowing faintly, staring at the wall. She looked like she hadn't eaten properly in days. Arlen paused. He looked at the nameplate. Zelevra, high risk, no entry. He frowned. Later that night, he returned with a food pack and some warm blankets. The guard on duty gave him a look. "That's the war criminal," the guard muttered. "Don't waste your time." "I'm not here to judge," Arlen said. "She looks cold." Inside, Zelevra didn't speak. She didn't reach for the food, either. She watched him quietly, eyes unblinking. But Arlen sat down on the floor a few feet away and started to unwrap the meal. "It's vegetable stew," he said gently. "Safe for most species. Not spicy." Still no response. He placed it on the tray in front of her and stood up. "I'll come by tomorrow," he said. He did. And the next day. And the next. Each time he brought small things. A clean towel, filtered water, fruit cubes, a tiny music player with soft instrumental songs. Zelevra never spoke, but she started eating. She moved more. One day she even turned her head when he entered. Her glowing eyes softened. The nurses talked about it. Some mocked Arlen, saying he was wasting time. Others warned him he was risking his career, but he didn't stop. "You don't leave a patient behind," he said simply. On the 8th day, something happened. Arlen brought a book, an old Earth storybook made of actual paper. He opened it and began to read aloud. The story was about a shipwrecked crew on an alien world. As he read, Zelevra slowly crawled closer, inch by inch, until she sat across from him. When he finished the story, he looked up. Zelevra raised one hand slowly and pointed at the book. "More?" he asked. She nodded, just once. That night, Arlen sat outside the room for 2 hours after his shift, just thinking. The next day, Zelevra finally spoke. Her voice was dry and soft, like leaves blowing across stone. "Why?" she asked. Arlen blinked. "Why what?" "You bring food, warm things, stories. Why?" He took a breath. "Because you're hurt, and no one else is helping you." "I'm Varnathi," she said. "Your people hate mine." "I'm human," he replied. "But I'm also a medic." She tilted her head. "You are not afraid of me?" Arlen smiled faintly. Should I be? Celevra didn't answer, but her glowing eyes blinked slowly, the Varnathi sign of confusion, or perhaps hope. In the days that followed, Celevra began to speak more. She asked questions, curious about Earth, about humans, about music. Arlen learned she liked soft sounds and disliked harsh lights. She was especially interested in plants and birds. She told him that the Varnathi hive mind was gone, destroyed in the war. She was alone in her head for the first time. It made everything feel too quiet, empty. Arlen nodded. Loneliness is loud sometimes. She looked at him as if surprised he understood. And then she said something that stuck with him. I was royalty, she whispered. Now I am nothing. You're not nothing, he replied. You're still alive, that counts. But not everyone agreed. One evening, Arlen was called into a meeting with Vesperhaven's security chief, a reptilian officer named Kreejar. You are interfering, Kreejar hissed. The Varnathi princess is a political problem. You are not authorized to engage with her. She's a medical case, Arlen replied calmly, and she's not hurting anyone. Her presence offends half the delegates, Kreejar snapped. She is a symbol of genocide. She's also a person, Arlen said, standing. You want to punish someone? Punish the ones who started the war, not a starving girl left to rot in a dark room. You overstep, then demote me. Arlen left the room without waiting for permission. Later that night, Celevra asked, Will they send me away? Maybe, Arlen admitted. But I'll fight it. You deserve better. Celevra was silent. Then, slowly, she reached forward, fingers trembling, and touched his hand. It was the first time she had touched anyone since arriving on Vesperhaven. Thank you, she whispered. And for the first time, Arlen thought, maybe she isn't the one who needs saving. Maybe, we all do. Days passed, then weeks. The war was over, but the pain remained, floating through the metal halls of Vesperhaven like cold smoke. Every race that had fought in the Great Galactic War was trying to forget, trying to heal. But memories lingered, and so did fear. In the middle of it all was Princess Zelivra, once royal, now unwanted. Locked in a quiet room, away from diplomats and politicians, she spent her days reading Earth storybooks, listening to music, and learning basic words in human English. The only person who visited her was Lieutenant Arlen Hayes, the kind medic who had seen her not as a monster, but as someone broken and worth helping. Arlen visited every day, despite warnings from the station's security chief and whispers among the staff. Some called him foolish. Others said he was too soft. But Arlen didn't care. He saw something in Zelevra that no one else did. Not power, not threat, but pain and potential. One day, Arlen brought her a small hollow projector. With a click, it displayed images of birds flying over forests, waterfalls crashing over rocks, and sunlight through leaves. This is Earth, he said, smiling. Zelivra stared in silence, her eyes wide. It is beautiful, she whispered. Arlen chuckled. It has problems, but it's home. Zelivra nodded slowly. Varnath was green too, before the fire. Her voice trembled slightly. She rarely spoke of her world. Arlen knew the Varnathi homeworld had been scorched during the war, its hives destroyed, billions dead. He had never asked her for details. But now, she spoke. They burned the sky, she said. The hives screamed. I was too far. I could not help them. Arlen sat beside her. Quietly, he didn't speak. He didn't try to explain or justify or defend the war. He just listened. And in that silence, a strange friendship grew stronger. News traveled fast through Vesperhaven. Rumors began to spread. The alien princess is speaking again, to a human. Some were curious. Others were angry. One day, a tall insectoid ambassador from the Tsirath Collective stopped Arlen in the hallway. You are the one who tends the Varnathi female, the creature buzzed. Arlen nodded carefully. She has a name. Zelivra, the ambassador's compound eyes blinked. That species enslaved my homeworld's colonies. They used minds like hers to twist our soldiers. She's not the Empire, Arlen said. She's just one person. The ambassador leaned closer. One person, with the power to destroy minds. Be careful, human. Even broken queens can still lay eggs. Later, in the medical wing, Arlen ran tests on Zelivra's health. He checked her reflexes, scanned her brainwaves, and tested for any hidden implants. "What do you see?" she asked quietly. Arlen studied the readings. Something about her neural activity was strange. Complex patterns moved like rivers under her skull. But it wasn't dangerous, it wasn't violent. It's like, "Your brain is singing," he said. She tilted her head. "Singing?" He smiled. "A song made of thoughts, not control, not pain, just communication." Zelivra looked away, unsure. In the hive, we shared everything, feelings, ideas. But now, I am alone in my mind. It is heavy. Arlen nodded. Humans are born alone in our minds. We carry that weight always, but we learn how to live with it. Sometimes, we even share it a little. She blinked slowly. You share? With stories, with touch, with kindness. Zelivra looked at him for a long moment, then said softly, "Your way is hard, but gentle." That night, Arlen sat in the station's quiet cafe. A small screen in the corner played news from across the galaxy. One report caught his eye. A stolen Varnathi weapon had been activated on a border planet. The camera showed flames, screams. The peace was breaking. Arlen's stomach turned. He knew what this meant. People would blame Zelivra. The last Varnathi. Alive. Some already wanted her dead. This would give them an excuse. He rushed to her room. She was already sitting up, tense, eyes glowing brighter than usual. "You saw the news?" he asked. She nodded. "They think I called it." "I know you didn't." Her voice was cold. "It does not matter. I am the last face they remember. The last voice." Arlen took a deep breath. "Then maybe we show them a different face. A different voice." Zelivra looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I want to help you speak to the council. Let them see who you really are." "No one will listen," she said. "I will," he replied. 2 days later, a private session was arranged in a secure chamber. No cameras, no reporters, just a few key delegates and officers. Zelivra stood beside Arlen, her robes clean, her head held high. Her skin shimmered slightly under the light. Her translator was working better now. She had practiced her words carefully. The delegates looked at her with cold eyes. One asked, "Are you the last Varnathi?" "Yes," she answered softly. "Do you still hold the power of the hive?" "No, I am alone now." A third delegate, a cyborg, leaned forward. "Then what use are you to us?" Zelivra blinked. "I remember." The room went quiet. "I carry the songs of the hive," she continued. "The records, the thoughts, the hopes, the pain. I am not a weapon, I am a library, and a witness." Arlen stepped forward. "She is more than memory. She is proof that peace is possible." The delegates murmured among themselves, some skeptical, some thoughtful. The insectoid, ambassador from earlier, stood up. "If she lies, if even one whisper of mind control returns, we will destroy her." Arlen stepped in front of Zelivra. "Then you'll go through me first." The room froze. Zelivra looked at Arlen with wide eyes. Her voice was soft. "Why do you protect me so?" "Because I see you," he said. "Not as a weapon, not as a symbol, but as someone who deserves a second chance." That night, back in her room, Zelivra sat beside Arlen in silence. She spoke first. "I do not understand your kindness." "You don't have to," he said. "Just know it's real." She reached into her robe and pulled out a small crystal, violet, glowing faintly. This is the last shard of our hive core, she said. It holds a memory spark. I want you to have it. I'm not Varnathi, he said, surprised. No, she said, placing it in his palm. But you are my first friend. Vesper Haven's lights always glowed in soft blue, designed to calm nervous guests. But lately nothing felt calm. Rumors spread faster than plasma fire. A Varnathi weapon had been reactivated. Several planets were afraid. Some diplomats called for action. Others whispered that the shunned alien princess, Zelevra, might still be dangerous. Only one person believed in her. Lieutenant Arlen Hayes, the human medic who had treated her wounds and stayed by her side when no one else dared. He didn't see a monster. He saw a person learning to be something new. But now the galaxy wanted answers. It began when Arlen noticed Zelevra waking up from nightmares again. She no longer flinched at voices or bright lights, but sometimes she would sit still for hours, eyes glowing softly, her mind far away. Arlen walked in one morning carrying tea. You didn't sleep again? He said gently. She nodded. I hear pieces, fragments of the hive, echoes. Arlen sat beside her. I thought the hive was gone. It is, but I still carry the memory core, the last shard. She held the small crystal she'd given him before. It whispers to me, old thoughts, warnings. Arlen frowned. Is it dangerous? Only if someone tries to control it, she said. Alone it is just knowledge. What kind of knowledge? Zelevra turned to him, her face calm but serious. Everything. Varnathi culture, science, war tactics, peace plans, even secrets. Arlen stared. You mean you have information the galaxy has never seen? Yes. The truth. Things that could stop another war, or start one. That same day, Arlen sent a coded message to a trusted friend, Dr. Moira Jane, a human neurologist working in the Coalition's science division. She arrived 2 days later, curious and cautious. A short woman with bright eyes, she looked at Zelevra with both interest and concern. She's not what I expected, Moira whispered to Arlen. She's not what anyone expected, he replied. Dr. Jane ran gentle scans on Zelevra's brain. What she saw stunned her. She's still linked to the hive network, she said. It's like a broken radio, one that's trying to tune itself back. Is that dangerous? Arlen asked. Only if someone hijacks the signal, Moira replied. But more importantly, her mind holds a full Varnathi history log. If we could safely connect it to a translator system, the galaxy could finally hear their side of the story. Zelevra looked uneasy. My memories are not clean. There is pain. Death. I remember when the sky burned. We don't want to hurt you, Arlen said softly. But maybe sharing your truth can save others. Meanwhile, powerful people were watching. The Zelthari Syndicate, a secretive group known for controlling war tech, learned of Zelevra's memory shard. They didn't want peace. They wanted power. They sent a silent signal to Vesper Haven. Extract the princess, alive or dead. We want the core. One night, Zelevra sat beside Arlen watching a hologram of birds flying over a forest. I want to believe peace is possible, she said. It is, Arlen replied. It starts with truth. She looked at him. If I share my mind, I may not survive. Then I'll go in with you, he said firmly. Zelevra tilted her head. You are not telepathic. No, Arlen smiled, but I'm stubborn. She laughed softly, a sound like wind through crystal. Then perhaps we have a chance. Dr. Jane prepared a protected neural interface, something that would allow Zelevra's mind to share memories in a safe, limited way. She called it the bridge chair. You'll be connected to the system, and Arlen will anchor you from the outside, Jane explained. If anything goes wrong, he'll pull you out. Zelevra nodded. The night before the process, she asked Arlen to stay in her room. Do you miss your home? She asked. Earth? He thought for a moment. Sometimes, but I don't belong there anymore, not like I used to. She looked at him quietly. Then, where do you belong? He hesitated, then met her gaze. Where you are. She said nothing, but her hand reached for his. This time it didn't tremble. The next day the council gathered to witness the process. Zelevra stepped into the bridge chair. Arlen sat beside her holding her hand. Dr. Jane monitored the readings. Beginning connection, she said. Zelevra's eyes glowed brighter. Her breath slowed. And then, a burst of light filled the chamber. A projection appeared in the air, images from her mind. Everyone watched in silence. They saw the Varnathi children playing in green fields. They saw the first attacks, human ships firing on suspected hive nests. They saw fear on both sides. Then they saw the truth. Another species, the Drex Combine, had manipulated both sides. Secret signals, sabotaged peace talks, lies whispered between minds. It wasn't just a war, it was a setup. Delegates gasped, some cried, others looked furious. Zelevra trembled in the chair. She's weakening, Jane warned. Zelevra, Arlen said, gripping her hand. Come back, you've done enough. Her voice was weak. They had to. No. Now. Maybe they'll listen. Arlen pressed the emergency release. The neural beam stopped. Zelevra collapsed into his arms, barely conscious. I'm here, he whispered. I've got you. The council's reaction was immediate. The Drex Combine's leaders were arrested. Secret files were opened. The truth was finally out. And Zelevra? She was no longer the shunned alien princess. She was now seen as a hero, a living witness who brought justice not through weapons but through memory. But not everyone was happy. That night, the Zelthari Syndicate made their move. 2 agents disguised as engineers entered the med wing. They aimed silent weapons at Zelevra's door. Before they could enter, Arlen tackled one of them to the ground. An alarm rang. Lights flashed. Security bots swarmed in. Zelevra woke up to the sound of Arlen shouting. When the attackers were caught and taken away, Zelevra looked at him with wide eyes. You protected me again. He nodded, breathing hard. Always. Later, as Vesper Haven calmed, and the stars outside twinkled like quiet fireflies, Zelevra stood beside Arlen, watching the universe through a wide viewing window. You have given me more than healing, she said. You've given us all a reason to believe again, Arlen replied. She turned to him. You never once asked what I was worth. I didn't need to, he said. You were always worth something. She smiled, a real smile. And for the first time since the war, hope filled the air. To be continued in Part 4. Flight Through Fire. Would you like me to begin writing Part 4 now? You said, Part 4, 1,200 words, a key. Peace was never easy. Even after Zelevra had shared the truth of the war, the real enemy, the betrayal, the hidden lies, not everyone believed. Some saw her as a brave soul who saved lives. Others still saw her as a weapon in disguise. But one thing had changed. Lieutenant Arlen Hayes was no longer the only one who stood by her. There were scientists who listened, soldiers who saluted her, and a few council members who called her Princess of Peace. But that didn't mean the danger was over. Far from it. It began with a whisper. Late one evening, while Arlen and Zelevra walked through the quiet gardens of Vesper Haven, Dr. Moira Jane appeared with a message. We received a secret transmission, she said, eyes serious. The Zelthari Syndicate put a bounty on Zelevra's head. Zelevra looked calm. They want the memory core. Arlen nodded. Because it holds knowledge they fear. Moira added, we traced the signal. They've hired mercenaries. Fast, quiet, professional. They'll be here within days. Zelevra turned to Arlen. We must leave. Within hours, a plan was made. They couldn't trust anyone except a small team. Moira, Arlen, and a few loyal engineers. Their goal was simple. Get Zelevra off Vesper Haven and into the safe zone on Proxima Station, where peacekeepers could protect her and use her memories to stop further war. But the journey wouldn't be easy. To avoid tracking systems, they'd need to take an old supply ship, the Halcyon Drake, through a narrow asteroid belt where sensors were weak but flying was dangerous. Perfect place for an ambush, Moira warned. Arlen looked at Zelevra. Still want to go? Zelevra didn't flinch. Yes, peace is not won by hiding. That night, under cover of darkness, Zelevra wore a cloak over her shimmering skin. Arlen carried a small medical bag. Inside it, the memory core she had trusted him with. They moved through side halls, avoiding cameras. At Dock Bay 7, the Halcyon Drake was ready. An old ship, patched and rusted but still strong. As they stepped aboard, Arlen looked at her. You all right? Zelevra looked at the stars through the window. I was born among stars. I will not fear them now. The launch was smooth. Inside, the Halcyon Drake. Moira took the pilot seat. Arlen stayed in the back with Zelevra, and the engines hummed like a purring animal. For a moment it felt like freedom. But then, red lights flashed. 2 ships just dropped out of warp. Moira shouted. No ID. Fast movers. Zelevra's eyes narrowed. Selthari. Arlen tightened his grip on his blaster. They found us. Moira jerked the ship left, dodging a laser blast that lit the space around them. The Halcyon Drake shuddered, metal, groaning. We're heading into the asteroid belt, she warned. Hold on. Rocks the size of buildings spun through the dark. The Halcyon Drake weaved through them like a thread through needles. Behind them, the enemy ships followed. Sleek, black vessels with sharp wings and no mercy. Gulliver reached out, placing a hand on a glowing control panel. I can help. Arlen turned to her. How? I remember the old Varnathi navigation pattern, she said. We trained in gravity storms. Let me guide. Moira hesitated, then nodded. Zelevra's fingers danced across the panel, whispering old words. The ship seemed to respond, turning smoother, tighter. She's making it sing, Moira said in awe. For 15 long minutes they danced between rocks and fire. Then one enemy ship got too close. Its wing clipped a spinning boulder and exploded in a flash of blue flame. One down, Arlen said, breathing hard. The second ship stayed close. Too close. A blast hit the Halcyon Drake's left engine. We're losing power, Moira cried. Arlen turned to Zelevra. We need to land. Now. There's an old mining base on the dark side of that moon, she said. I see it in the ship's memory. Coordinates locked, Moira shouted. Hold on. They crash-landed. The Halcyon Drake skidded across black rock, sparks flying. Dust rose. Metal groaned. But they were alive. Arlen pulled Zelevra from her seat. Are you hurt? No, but the memory core, it's glowing. He looked. The crystal in his bag pulsed softly like a heartbeat. Moira checked the console. We're safe for now, but that last ship is circling. They'll find us. Zelevra looked out at the cold moon. Then we make our stand here. Inside the mining base, they found old equipment. Shields, tools, a half-working generator. Moira began setting up defenses. Arlen handed Zelevra a small energy blade. Can you use it? She activated it with a flick. I was trained with hive claws. This will do. They waited. Then footsteps, metal against stone. The last Zelthari mercenary entered. Tall, armored, silent. His gun glowed red. I only want the core, he said coldly. Give it, and I'll leave. Zelevra stepped forward. No. Then die, he said, raising the weapon. But before he could fire, Arlen moved a flash, a shot. Arlen screamed and fell. Zelevra ran to him. No! He was bleeding, but alive. She looked up, eyes glowing with fury. And then, for the first time since the hive died, she fought like a queen. With speed and grace, she moved. The blade danced in her hands. The mercenary was fast, but she was faster. She wasn't a weapon of war anymore. She was a protector. In moments it was over. The mercenary lay unconscious. Moira ran in. "He's down. We did it." Zelevra dropped the blade and turned to Arlen. His breathing was shallow. "Still here," he whispered. She touched his wound and her fingers glowed. Not full healing. She didn't have that gift. But she slowed the bleeding, calmed his pain. "Stay with me," she said. "I'm not going anywhere," he whispered. Later, back aboard the repaired Halcyon Drake, they reached Proxima Station. Peacekeepers greeted them with awe. Zelevra's story had already spread. Her truth, her fight, her bravery. And Arlen? He was a hero now too. The medic who had seen an enemy and found a friend. Zelevra stood on the balcony of the Peacekeeper Tower, looking at the stars. Arlen joined her, arm in a sling. "We made it," he said. She nodded. "You bled for me." He smiled. "You fought for me." They stood together in silence, two survivors of different worlds now walking the same path. "What happens now?" she asked. "We rebuild," he said. "Together." She turned to him. "I was once a princess of a hive," she whispered. "Now, I think I want to be something else." "What?" She looked at him gently. "Yours." The Proxima Station was alive with light and sound. Since the arrival of Zelevra and Lieutenant Arlen Hayes, the station had turned into a symbol of unity. Reporters, scientists, soldiers, and even diplomats from different species came to see the alien princess who once belonged to the fallen Varnathi hive, and the human medic who saved her. Yet, while the galaxy was watching, Zelevra did not feel like a queen. She was unsure. Even though she had shown the truth, fought for peace, and saved lives, many still whispered behind closed doors. Some feared her power. Others questioned her heart. She stood alone on a balcony overlooking the silver stars, and she wondered, what do I become when I no longer have a hive, a throne, or a war? Arlen walked into the room quietly, arm still in a sling from the last battle. He didn't speak at first. He simply stood beside her. Finally, he said, "You look far away." "I am," Zelevra whispered. "There is so much pain in this galaxy. Even now, peace is fragile. I feel like I have done everything. And still, the hate remains." Arlen nodded. "It always will for some people. But you've given the rest of us something more powerful than hate, hope." She looked at him. "And you gave me more than hope. You gave me choice." He smiled. "And you gave me purpose." A few days later, the Coalition Peace Council sent a message. They wanted Zelevra to speak at the Unity Summit, where leaders of 50 different species would decide the future of interstellar relations. Some feared her presence, but others insisted she must be heard. "If you accept," Moira Jane told her, "you could help shape the next 100 years of galactic law." Zelevra thought deeply, then said quietly, "I will speak, not as a ruler, but as someone who once lost everything and still dared to believe." The day of the Unity Summit arrived. Thousands gathered in the vast crystal hall on Area Prime, a planet built for diplomacy. The roof was transparent, showing the stars beyond. As Zelevra stepped into the hall, silence fell. She wore no crown, no armor, just a simple robe of silver and black. At her side walked Arlen, steady and calm. When she reached the center platform, she looked at the faces around her, some familiar, some not. She began, "I was born to a hive that believed unity was strength. But we forgot something important. We thought unity meant obedience. We were wrong. Real unity is when different hearts choose to stand together, not because they are the same, but because they care." The hall remained silent. "The war that ended my people was not only built by weapons, it was built by lies. Lies spread by those who feared change. I carry the memory of that war, and I choose to carry its lessons, not its anger." She turned slowly, eyes glowing gently. "A human showed me kindness when I was alone, wounded and feared. He could have walked away, but he stayed. He did not see a Varnathi. He saw someone in pain. Now murmurs filled the air. Peace does not begin with governments. It begins with people, with moments of courage and choices made in love, not fear. I am not asking for your trust, I am offering mine. And then she bowed her head. I have no crown, she said, voice soft. But if peace needs a voice, let mine be heard. Thibaut, silence stretched for several seconds. Then someone stood. A tall, feathery diplomat from the Avexis people raised his hand. I vote yes. Let her be heard. Another stood. Then another. Soon the whole council chamber stood. Not all believed in her fully, but they believed she had earned the right to speak, to help, to live free. For the first time in her life, Zelevra was not chosen by a hive mind. She was accepted by a galaxy. Weeks passed. Zelevra began helping the Peace Council decode the Varnathi memory core. It had star maps, medicine formulas, even lost languages that could help unite distant colonies. She also started a new program, the Bridge Project, designed to bring together young minds from different species to learn, share, and understand. Arlen joined as lead medical advisor. Together they traveled from one station to the next, teaching people how to heal, not just bodies, but old wounds left by war. In time, people stopped calling her the shunned alien princess. They called her the voice of the void, the one who rose from ashes and brought light. One evening, under the orange skies of Tana Station, Arlen and Zelevra sat beside a quiet lake. Birds with glowing wings circled overhead. You're not just surviving anymore, Arlen said. You're building something. She smiled, her skin shimmering faintly in the sunset. I didn't know I could. You've done more than most humans or aliens ever will. She looked at him, heart open. I couldn't have done it alone. Hugh took her hand. You never were alone. Not really. Silence passed between them, peaceful and real. Then softly, Zelevra asked, will you stay? Not just as my medic. Not just as my friend. Arlen looked at her. I'll stay as long as you'll have me. She leaned closer. Then I'll never ask you to leave. Months later, when the stars aligned above Proxima again, a ceremony was held. Not a coronation, not a parade, but a binding of unity. Zelevra and Arlen stood before a gathering of many races. There were no thrones, only hands joined together, and words of hope shared across 1,000 channels. I am not the daughter of an empire, Zelevra said. I am the child of second chances. I am not a soldier, Arlen said. I am a healer who found his reason in a fallen star. And as they spoke, lights filled the sky. Not weapons, not fire, but lanterns floating gently. A symbol of kindness, of fire, of two souls who refused to give up on each other or the galaxy.